Hi, everyone. Welcome to the short inspirational wellness talk series. Your voice, your story. Join us on this wellness movement. I'm so excited to share uplifting stories of transformation, growth from individuals around the globe as we celebrate global wellness milestones in the months of May and June. Today, I'm very excited to have Elisha join us. Hi, Elisha.
Hello.
Hi. Where are you joining us from?
Boston.
Awesome. And how's the weather like?
It's kind of rainy and a little icky today in
All right. So
April.
for a change, I'm going to say I'm in Seattle and it's actually not raining. So I think
Okay.
we just swapped
We
spots.
sweat. Yeah, so
Awesome. So in this short series, again, I'm just going to have you start with sharing a bit about your wellness journey and what challenges you overcame.
sure. So back in 2013, I was diagnosed with chronic idiopathic angioedema and hives. So basically, they didn't know what was wrong with me, why I was getting hives and all this face swelling. And the traditional medical approach really didn't help me. They just told me just to take lots of medication. It didn't really help. And I'm actually a Ph.D. scientist originally, and I recognized pretty early on I was going to have to become my own healing experiment because I just knew that just taking medication for the rest of my life was probably not going to solve my health issues. So for many years, I focused just on diet and supplements and saw a little bit of progress, but I really hit kind of, I'd say, a real roadblock in 2016, and really my health actually got quite a bit worse. And fortunately, after doing a lot of research, I learned about this link between unresolved grief, trauma, and the link with chronic illness, and specifically autoimmune issues. And that was a real missing piece for me and a real light bulb moment. And there's this area of science called psychoneuroimmunology for people who want to learn more about that. And so that was key for me to learn about that, and that really helped get me on the right path for my healing. And I'd say what challenges that I've had to overcome was part of my illness was having random hives and angioedema episodes. So I never really knew when I was going to have symptoms like a lot of people. And so that was really hard to have a job, to try to live your life when you don't know what's going to cause a flare. So those were some of the biggest challenges that I was facing at that time.
Okay. So what key lesson or, practice has had the most profound impact on your well-being?
Sure. So, like I said, so understanding this link between the grief, the trauma, and the nervous system dysregulation. So I was really stuck in this high stress fight flight response for most of my life, honestly. And then also learning about ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences. There's been a number of studies that have shown the link between things that we've gone through as children early in life and how that can impact our risk for chronic illness later in life. These were key things. And then really starting therapy, honestly. So recognizing these were areas that were contributing and having a negative impact on my health, and then going and working with a really good therapist, learning to work through suppressed emotions, because I never really knew how to feel emotions, and also learning how to set boundaries and all those types of things really were really key parts of my healing.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, something, that everybody should be aware of, right? Because I think it's very hard for people, for one, to accept, and second, to actually understand that emotional connection. So I think there's two parts to that.
Totally.
So thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. And what message of encouragement or wisdom you want to share or leave for someone on the
I'll
rise?
just say, keep going, because as hard as like 2016 for me, October 2016 was my lowest point. I mean, at that point, honestly, I didn't know I had nothing else to try. And January 2017, so just a month or two later, things started to shift. That's when I learned about these things I talked about. I also just want to mention that people should, in my opinion, be really mindful of the Facebook groups they're in, the Instagram accounts that they're following, because some of those I found were not particularly uplifting and instead were kind of very negative. And I think you need to ask yourself, how does your body feel after you've interacted with these accounts? Like, is it getting you to think about some things you hadn't thought about and okay, maybe some things to consider? Or do you just feel like, this is really depressing? And I wanted to mention that because I know for myself, you want to gather information, but you also don't want to put ideas in your mind over things that you maybe didn't even know could happen with this illness and may never happen to you with the illness, right? And so that's something that's really important that we all have to be aware of, is when you're engaging and learning about this content, are you getting good information, or is it putting you in places where you're like, this isn't helpful for my body. And so that's one thing I wanted to mention. Another thing is music has actually been really helpful for me. And just over the last few years, it's something I wish I would have incorporated earlier in my journey, because it's kind of a good way to, especially your favorite songs, to get you in a good, just good feeling. Even if you don't, your body doesn't feel good, it's a really, I think, a healthy thing to do. And I just want to mention this Florence and the Machine and her song Shake It Out, because the lyrics are, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I just feel like so many times in my life, I wish I would have had that going, okay, it's a difficult time right now. It's always going to be that before the dawn, you know. And so I want to share that with people if you're going through something really challenging or having a really hard day, that those are some things that all of us can easily, you know, put some favorite music together and listen to, and can help put us in a better space, at least for a little while. So I wanted to share that too.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing. I mean, absolutely. I think there's always these, you know, they call it these energy suckers, energy drains,
Vampires.
right? So be
Yes.
careful who you surround yourself with or what information, because we're all bombarded with social
Mm-hmm.
media and all of that, right? I mean, there's so much information out there. So what
Mm-hmm.
you take in versus where do you draw that line, I think is so
Yes.
important. And music, oh, absolutely relate to that. I mean, I think I'm a big believer in that, because there is
Yeah.
just so much, even just in the spiritual journey and just calming yourself down. I feel, you know, music plays a huge role. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those practical tips that actually people, you know, can implement or at least start thinking about in their
Sure.
journey.
Yeah.
So awesome. So thank you, Elisha. So as
Thank
we
you.
conclude, I would love for you to share any social media or any information where if people want to reach out or connect with you, how can they do so?
Sure. So, one of my, I'm most active on Instagram at Bravely Together. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm also on YouTube, but at Bravely Together on Instagram. And then I also have my website, so bravelytogether.com. So you can find me in those places.
Of those words
Thank
too,
you.
bravely together, right? I
Yeah.
think there's so much to do with just being bold, being brave, and you know, sharing your voice, sharing your journey. I think that's so important. So thank you so much for taking the
Yeah.
time today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.